And this is not sort of, bombing the Houthis. This is bombing Iran. This is getting involved with a war with Iran. And although they are weaker since the decline of Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, they are not they're not invincible. And it would be an incredibly dangerous country to go to war with.
Let's start with the important thing that is consuming a lot of airtime, quite appropriately, because it's the Iran-Israel conflict. David Lammy is in Geneva today for talks which include European countries as well as the Iranian foreign minister. Donald Trump announced that he's giving 2 weeks for negotiations for deciding whether the US will join Israeli airstrikes. That announcement came after the historian Sir Neil Ferguson said at the Times CEO Summit yesterday that he had been told that the bombing from the US was going to start last night. And of course, we all know what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that the US has this extraordinary bomb, the 30,000-ton bunker buster, which the experts tell us is the only device that could possibly penetrate Iran's nuclear facility. Michael, let's start with you. What is going on? Is Donald Trump just enjoying the game, or is he genuinely trying to seek some kind of off-ramp for Iran?
I think he is genuinely seeking an off-ramp. He's in a real dilemma because his base doesn't really support the idea of a foreign entanglement of any kind. I mean, the whole MAGA thing, Make America Great, their main task has been to tell the Americans right from the start, we don't want the kind of foreign entanglements and getting bogged down in the Middle East that we've seen again and again. That's hurting America and not in our interests. On the other hand, there's a very strong pro-Israel lobby also in the Republican ranks, and they would like to see Trump take decisive action. And I think he wants to show, yes, he can be a wartime leader if necessary, but what he really wants is a triumphant peace deal. Now, whether that is possible in the next 2 weeks, I don't know. The Israelis are going to be very upset that he's not come in straight away. And I think that's possibly one of the reasons he's being a bit cautious, because he doesn't want to show that he's entirely just, on one side. He's got friends in the Gulf, he's got friends in Saudi Arabia who are urging him to try to play a sort of mediation role. And he's worried about possible attacks on American soldiers in the region. So all in all, he's really, I think he hasn't decided. He's trying to make that an asset by sort of suggesting, well, it could be this, it could be that, and using that as a way of trying to prod Iran into some kind of last-minute deal, which actually I don't think will happen.
Absolutely. And I think, Jane, I support the Israeli action against Iran, but I absolutely accept the critique that if you start something like this, you have to know how to finish it. And it does seem, with Donald Trump's prevarication, that actually the protagonists don't know how to end this.
Yeah, and I think it just got a little bit out of hand this week with Trump's, as it always is with, with Trump, the posts on Truth Social about the Ayatollah and unconditional surrender. The truth is that, as you say, if you support the Israeli action, this is about, they have their military objectives, which is to destroy the ballistic missile launchers and the nuclear program, but to then start talking about regime change and to sort of taking out the Ayatollah, as Trump was suggesting, is just ludicrous. And I don't think even there is sort of some tough talk from the Israeli defense minister yesterday about Khamenei, but I don't think that is the core Israeli objective. So it was just getting a bit too out of hand. And I think sort of in this occasion, and we had this statement last night, that clearly Trump has been persuaded by wiser people in the White House, but also, as Michael was saying, there is a sort of huge MAGA section in his party that does not want another war. And this is not sort of, bombing the Houthis. This is bombing Iran. This is getting involved with a war with Iran. And although they are weaker since the decline of Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, they are not they're not invincible. And it would be an incredibly dangerous country to go to war with. So I think that sort of the sense has kicked in. It's also useful. It's good for Keir Starmer because it sort of chimes with the message that he's been pushing all week, which is de-escalation. I don't think Trump has necessarily, that's the sort of overriding reason why Trump has done this, but it is convenient for Starmer that is the message that he's been pushing all week.
Can I apologise quickly to Dan, David and Alan? It is, of course, a 30,000-pound bomb, not a 30,000-ton bomb, which would be the weight of a small cargo ship. It is interesting what Jane says, Michael, but does Britain have a role to play here? I mean, David Lammy, I can understand as part of a kind of group of foreign ministers, particularly obviously from Europe, can have an element of influence here, but really it's Israel and the US's call and no one else's.
Yes, exactly. The question is whether the phone call will come from the White House saying, we would like permission to use whatever facilities you have, Diego Garcia Base, where the bomber will take off from probably, or possibly bases in Cyprus or wherever. And I think it would be very difficult for Starmer to actually say, no, you can't. When America comes calling, Britain nearly always says yes. The only famous time when the White House wanted Britain to get involved in a war and they said no was the Vietnam War, where Johnson was endlessly pushing Harold Wilson to send troops to Vietnam, and Wilson said all along, I won't, and he didn't. But usually, I think the Britain would agree to passive use of its facilities. I don't think there's any request, and it's not likely, and it won't happen, for Britain actually to be involved in sending troops or planes or militarily. Intelligence, possibly, yes, but that's a more sort of passive thing. And I think Britain is, as you say, urging restraint. I don't know whether that's going to make much difference. What's going on is really between Israel, Iran and the United States. Britain's voice counts for very little in the region.
It's very depressing, isn't it? I mean, we're going to talk about Ed Miliband's U-turn on oil drilling in a moment, but Jane Merrick, just to finish off this item, I guess the biggest issue is even if you go ahead and kind of follow this to its logical conclusion with a US intervention, the backlash is not necessarily going to be a significant attack on Israel, but it could be effectively blockading the Straits of Hormuz, the laying of mines, which apparently Iran can do very easily and is very hard to counter. A huge impact potentially on the global economy, even if the military action is limited in scope.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, there is a question of whether Iran would want to block off the Straits of Hormuz. It would sort of damage their own economy. But, yes, that is a massive risk. And all of these calculations are being taken into account. Keir Starmer doesn't, Keir Starmer knows the lessons of Iraq. He's got Jonathan Powell as his national security advisor by his side, who was chief of staff during the build-up and the war in Iraq. So he knows he does not want to get into this. And it's not just about his own party. It's not just about the sort of the global stability. It is also about the economy. And all of those reasons, there are so many strong reasons why Britain and why, in fact, anyone should want to go to war with Iran. I think, as Michael says, though, there could be this passive support. I mean, if we're talking about the legalities of any military action, if we are just doing sort of refueling and we can badge it up as Israel self-defense, then that can be classed as legal. So I think it's it's where the line is drawn and how much consent we give and what are we giving consent for is the question.